it? Go. Firas, we are live. You can start. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining us in this great YouTube live, the first YouTube live for the Xamarin session and the first session. We'll have other sessions in a few days. So for tomorrow, we are lucky to have MVP Hossein Delahi and Mr. Hatem from Microsoft. So we'll talk about Xamarin Marathon, how to participate, some technical approaches for the Xamarin Marathon, some demos, some resources, and of course, if you have any questions, you will get all the response from and all the answers from Mr. Hussein Delay and from Mr. Hatem. So now we will start with Mr. Hatem for introduction about the Xamarin Marathon.
Hello everyone, my name is Hatim Nagarwala and I work as an application developer at Microsoft Gulf. You can get in touch with me through my Twitter handle, which is Hatim Nagarwala. So, as the name suggests, we are going to see something which is called a Xamarin Marathon. So, what do you need for it? Number, some rest, yoga, some food, or some fluids? No. What you need is you need either a Visual Studio for PC or you need Visual Studio for Mac. This development tool will help you to actually build all the cross-platform applications, whether it's iOS, it's Android, or a Windows phone. Plus, in all, you can have a really powerful backend with the same IDE working with it. So, after this, if you're students, you can get the benefit of the powerful backend, which is Microsoft Azure, by getting from Microsoft Imagine. Or if you are an indie developer, what you can do is you can log on to visualstudio.com and get the Visual Studio Dev Essentials, where you get $300 of credit for 1 year, where you can use some of the backend resources from Azure. Next, what do you do to participate in the Xamarin Marathon? Step 1, visit aka.ms/Xamarin Marathon, register yourself for the program, and next what you see after you log into your account is you'll see a dashboard with all the trainings included in it. The trainings are divided into a good modules which will help you to actually concentrate each and every part of the training, master yourself with that technology, go ahead and build that application for it. So let us see what each module offers us. So the first module is the jumpstart for you. Go ahead, look what is Xamarin, have an introduction about the Xamarin platform, what it offers as a developer to you, what are the different flavors which Xamarin offers, which is forms or your native approaches, and get a deep dive into it. This module will just concentrate on an overview of what you can do with Xamarin, an introduction, and then you can start with it. The next module will take care of the first flavor of Xamarin, which is Xamarin Forms. It will take care of how you start with a new application with Xamarin Forms, work with different pages, layouts, your controls, navigate between two different pages, or have a multi-page applications and stuff like this. Look more about how you can have a list view displayed on the screen, have data binding attached to it, use MVVM pattern in your application, have local storage with SQLite on all the platforms, and different kinds of views, one of which is very famous out there right now, is the carousel views. And third module which we'll look into is concentrating more on the native approach, which is the Xamarin Android, where you will see how do you go ahead, start a new application with Android, adding different navigations, menu items, your controls, and working with a normal basic application with it. In the later part of the module, you will come to know how do you work with advanced features of Android, which is you can have hardware sensors, you can have camera, different navigations. You can have a look at it with the advanced features with Android. And the last one is helping you to actually prepare your application which you have built and upload it to the Google Play Store. The next module, which is the fourth module, which concentrates more on iOS. So what you saw in the start was first flavor, which was forms. Then we'll see native approaches for Android and iOS. In iOS, you look more in details about how do you work with storyboards, the different UI elements, navigations of views between your storyboards, a table view for your iOS, different controls, and how do you share text and images between your views. The last module, which is the most important module out here, which will help you to actually connect your applications to the cloud, which is getting started with Xamarin and Azure. Now, once you go through all of these 5 modules, you will go ahead, build an application for it, and upload it to your evidences website. This evidences website, you just need to take care of a few things for instructors to go ahead, check your application, and see how good you have done with it. So the basics are just you have to submit a screenshot with your Azure portal with the app service URL and the status of it, whether it is running or not, your subscription ID, your subscription name, and your source code with Visual Studio and the Azure mobile service connected with your source code. Once you submit all these things, it will be ready for it. They'll verify internally, and what you get is you build your all online training. Yeah, like you go through your online trainings, build your application, submit it. Once it is approved, you get a certificate like this from Microsoft, which will have your name, and it will help you to actually brag yourself that yes, you have completed a Xamarin Marathon with all these courses and built an application for it. After this, what you do is once you're done with all the trainings, you have your application ready, submitted, you got the certificate. What's next? If you're stuck up in any of the things which you're doing advanced, you can contact mentors out here. Right now, we have 2 mentors, which is Alan Pete. You can contact him on his Twitter account, which is ADPAD, and his email address adped@gmail.com, or contact me through my Twitter, which is @Hatim Nagarwala, or on my email address that is a-hanaga@microsoft.com. Moreover, as Firas said, we have this kind of calls where today we are discussing about introduction about Xamarin and give you different resources about Xamarin. We conduct this kind of sessions on a regular basis. So we have a next call scheduled next Thursday, which is 7:30 Dubai time. So you can get details about it on a Facebook group page, and you can join us for the Skype meeting to see how the things go on. Best of luck, all of you, and I'll hand over things to Hussam. Thank you.
Thank you, Hatem, for this presentation. For me now, I go and share some tools and some more
Sure.
videos they can watch to learn about Xamarin, how to connect to their database, how to create web services, how to use Azure Backend for their apps. And also I show some NuGet packages that they will really help them to add nice functionalities for their application with really a minimum of code. Things like accessing the camera, accessing the GPS location. So let's start here. I share my screen to share my presentation right here. Oops. Well, you can see my presentation.
Yes, Hussam, we can see it.
At first here, thank you. At first, I want to mention some of the differences between Xamarin and Xamarin Forms. And some, we always say Xamarin, but on some blogs and some videos, they are mentioning Xamarin Forms. What is the difference between the two paradigms? So the first one, Xamarin. With Xamarin, you build your application using shared C# logic. That means you can share only the logic code of your application, and you have to write the user interface separately for each platform. That means for iOS, you have to use the iOS concepts. That means you can use the storyboards with iOS. And for Android, you have to rebuild the user interface for Android using the XML files. And the same for Windows, you have to rebuild it using XAML files. So here with Xamarin, you are only sharing the logic code of your application, things like connecting to web services and everything related to application logic. Then you have to write the user interface separately for each platform. So that means you will write 3 codes separated for each platform. With Xamarin Forms, you are you still share the application logic code, but also you can share the user interface. This means you write the user interface once, and that code will be rendered for iOS, Android, and for Windows. So this way you can share logic code and also user interfaces. And for this, it depends on your application, but in general, I advise people to use Xamarin Forms because it generates the three applications for your iOS, Android, and Windows application with minimum of code and minimum of time and effort. Let's move now to the tools we can use. So when we are developing for Xamarin, we can develop for Android, and for Android we can use our Windows machine. Also we can use Mac, but if we want to build our application for Mac, then we need to have, or for iOS, then we need to have a Mac in order to do the compilation. This means we need to connect our Visual Studio to a Mac machine. Then and every time I hit start to deploy the application, it will be deployed to the Mac machine, and they can get this remote iOS simulator to see the rendering of the application on iOS on my Windows machine. So this is a new thing. And also we do have a cool feature. If you do have an iPhone and a Windows, then you don't need a Mac anymore, because now you can do the compilation of your application on iPhone directly without going through a Mac machine. So this could be interesting for some of you who have iPhones. Other things that might help you to accelerate your development is the usage of Xamarin Forms Previewer. So when you are writing your XAML code, you will see a live preview of your user interface at live in your IDE. So here I'm writing this code for the user interface, and at live I can get I can see how this user interface look like here. So this is really useful to accelerate your development. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you will use frequently on your development. The first thing is the usage of the basic controls like the entry, the button, the stack layout. So those, you do have the resources that shows you how to use those, the resources mentioned by Hatem, and you can find those inside the Xamarin Marathon portal. Also, what you can need to do is doing platform customizations. So let's say, for example, you have a button, you want that button to have a width equal to 100 on Android, 120 on iOS, and 19 for Windows Phone. Then you use the on platform for doing platform customization, because we know that the screen are not the same, or the screen sizes are not the same for Android, iOS, and Windows Phone. So 100 on Android might not be good for iOS, so we need to specify some other width. Also, the ListView, and this is the most famous user control in all the platforms and all the mobile applications. We cannot imagine a mobile application that doesn't have a ListView. So this is the most useful one. And guess what? It's really easy to use with Xamarin Forms, because here you only declare your ListView, give it a name, then you assign to it your list of employees or list of products and the C# code, or you can do that also in XAML code right here. Then you declare, or you create your data template, how every single item in that list view will look like here. So here I'm binding my list of employees, and I'm showing their IDs, name, and department. Other really useful pages or useful concepts is the navigation. How can I go from page 1 to page 2 and come back to page 1, for example? So this is done through the navigation property in Xamarin Forms. So we can use push async to go to another page. Let's say to go to the second page, for example. Then if I want to come back to the previous page, then I just use navigation.pop async. We put this code inside a button click event, for example. And then we can use pop to route to go back to the first shown page in our application. So this is really simple to use. And Xamarin with an Android, you get that arrow at the top left of your application to tell you you can click that button to go back. Also in Xamarin Forms, we use a lot the tablet page. And the tablet page, here I get some screenshots for iOS. I can swipe from right to left or from left to right to change or to go to another pages. As we see here for Android, the toolbar is shown at the top. So here you see that Xamarin Forms adapts the user interface depending on the platform. To create tablet page, we just here create from within a tablet page page type. We go and say children.add and add all your pages. Here, every item of those is a page. So a tablet page is a collection of pages. For that, here we do have this children element to put all your pages. The master detail page, and this one is really great to use because here you can swipe from left to right through or click the hamburger menu to get this menu page where you can put links to go or to navigate to other pages. How to use the master detail page? It's really simple and straightforward because right here you can create a master detail page and from it you have two elements, the master and the detail, and both of them is a page. The master is this page that contains your buttons, and the detail is the other page that you want to show when you click one of those buttons, for example. Because on Xamarin Marathon, we are required to create on Azure, so we might think about using either a mobile Azure mobile app, or we can also use the Azure app service. And with the Azure app service, we'll create our backend using ASP.NET or any other technology. Then we'll host it on Azure, and that backend have a database to store the list of products, for example, and we need to communicate with that backend. For that communication, it could be done through the HTTP client library. For that, here we use this object HTTP client, and we have all the methods and we do have all the code needed to communicate with our web service. Here I do have an example to get a list of employees, for example. I'm using get, and here I put the URL for my web service. I get that list of employees as a JSON object. Then I deserialize that JSON into a .NET object, into a list of employees. If you have no idea about JSON and how to use HTTP client, then the resources mentioned in Xamarin Marathon would really help you to create those and communicate with your backend. Otherwise, you can see some of the videos I do post on YouTube. So if you take a look at those videos, right here, my channel, my name, then you can see that here I'm organizing my content as a list as playlists. For the basic one, this is the playlist you start with, and it's for creating cross-platform apps. So you do have those same videos on the Xamarin 4. Then For creating your backend, the websites, watch this advanced Xamarin Forms playlist, where here I show how to create web services, host them on Azure, and then how to with them, and also how to create the database, update the database. If you are if you did a lot in your application and you want to add some really cool features and some advanced features, then you might think about adding sign up and login functionality in your Xamarin application. And here I have a playlist that shows you how to do that using ASP.NET. ASP.NET could be the technology you use for your backend. So here you get all the code and all the demos to create login and register pages in your applications, so that you can assign the items or assign the products to a certain user, for example. And you can say, I want to get all the products uploaded by a certain user. Come back to the presentation. And when creating mobile application, always have this this discussion about the database and the data I want to store inside my application. And here, before going straight forward and choose the database as a storage option, then you have to think a bit and consider that there is some two other really cool and great options and easy to use options, like the preferences and the file system. So you should consider those three. So let's discover them one by one. Let's start by the most complicated options, which is the database. We can use SQLite in Xamarin and Xamarin Forms to create a local database. So this is a local database, not a database that will be shared. So every user will have his own database. It's different from a database that is hosted on Azure, where that database is shared between all the users. But this one is every user have his own database inside his device. So he don't need a web service to communicate with this database because it's on his device. I do have videos for how to use SQLite, and I think on the platform, on Xamarin Marathon portal also, we do have videos for how to use SQLite, how to create the table, how to fetch the tables, how to create queries saying, for example, I want to get all the products that have a price lower or equal $20, for example. And that's the most complicated options. Let's move now to the second option, which is a little bit simpler to implement, which is the file system. So here the file system is, it will store your data in files. Those files could be text files, JSON files, or whatever. And here I mentioned it could be JSON file because we can store our list of products, or we can store that list of products as in those files after serializing them into JSON. Because when you have that list of products, you can serialize it into JSON, and at that time your data is a JSON string. Then you can save that string or that text in a file, in a text file, for example. Then you can retrieve it later, even when the user closes and reopen the application. And here, let's move to the third option, which is the coolest one, which is using preferences. And here we can save data as key values. Let's say, for example, the user want to save his preferred background color for the application, or you want to save the user's login and password or the user's access token, then you might not consider using the database or the file system, but the best option to use is preferences in those cases. Because preferences is really light, it's a light storage option. You only create your key and then give it a value to store it. So you will save your data as, I want to save this password for the user and the password is this one. At another page, at another time, you can retrieve that password telling the preferences, hey, give me the password of the user. Also, we have some fourth option, actually, which is using cloud storage. And here, because you are required to create an ASP.NET backend that uses a SQL database, then you might think about using a database and you communicate with the database through web services. Those web services could be implemented automatically if you are using the Azure mobile app, or you would implement them yourself if you use ASP.NET as a backend. Here, actually, if I'm asked about whether to use Azure mobile app or Azure web service, then I would recommend to use Azure web service. It's a little bit complicated than mobile app, but it really using it, you would really understand how to create web services and how to invoke them from your mobile application. So you can see and clearly all the architecture of your application, and you can have more control over your application. Now let's move to another really cool part of this presentation, which will help you add nice features quickly and faster to your application, which is here using NuGet packages. We know with Xamarin, we can use all the NuGet packages available for .NET applications. So imagine you can add those pages to your application with just a few lines of code. Imagine here we do have a NuGet package that retrieves all the tweets from the user. So here, this NuGet package, which is available to use right now, it gives you the possibility to choose a user and get all his tweets posted on Twitter. Then we do have other NuGet packages to get the list of videos posted on YouTube, for example, with information like the number of views, the likes, the comments, and so on. We also have NuGet packages to get a list of images from Foursquare with the information about how far that place it is from your current position right now. So those really good NuGet packages. Where we can find those NuGet packages, here, if I go to GitHub, to this exact link, like right here, /Xamarin components, then we can find all the list of NuGet packages supported by Xamarin and created by the community. Here I'll mention some of those. Here we do have the battery status. If you want to check your battery status, then we do have barcode scanner to scan a barcode. Then we do have a NuGet package that is really easy to use, and with just a few lines of code, you can scan a barcode. If you want to use a Bluetooth in your Xamarin application, then we do have a NuGet package for that. If you want to include a calendar, if you want to use the compass, if you want to check if your application is connected to the internet or not, because your application will communicate with web services. So it's really important to check the internet connectivity before creating HTTP requests. If you want to do cryptography, then you can do that. You can also get the device info if you want to know if your what device your application is running on. You want to get the Android model, the Android API version, and so on. Some other cool NuGet packages are the external maps. And here I want to emphasize this. If you want to use maps in your application, then please do not implement everything in your application, because now on mobile apps, you can use the Bing Maps, the Google Maps, or the iOS maps, whatever it is, and you can pass to it some parameters to say, for example, show me the way or the path to go from point A to point B. And the external maps, the Google Maps, can do that for you. So don't bother yourself and don't waste your time implementing all that heavy code inside your application. We do have external maps. We can invoke them, passing the parameters like the longitude and latitude, and those external maps will do the rest for you. Here, the NuGet packages for using the storage, for using the file system as a storage option. We do have a NuGet package for it. So you would use it to create files and store data inside it. We also have file picker. If you want your user, for example, to pick an image you have created, then you can use file picker to access the local storage in your device. We do also have geofencing to tell the app, for example, notify me whenever I am on the position 3030, for example, or notify me when I'm back home, to trigger some other functionalities. We do have also the geolocator, of course, and here the geolocator will give you your exact GPS position. It will give you the latitude and longitude for your position. You can also use in-app billing if you want to put in-app purchase in your application. Then this NuGet package is made for you. We can create local notifications when the user click product, for example. Then you want to show him your product is added successfully to the database, and that could be done through local notifications. It gives you a really nice window that shows the user the information you want to show. We do also have the media plugin. The media plugin, if you want to take or pick photos and videos. If you want to take a picture, the camera on your device to either take a picture or create a video. You can do that through the media plugin. So there is a really long list of those plugins you want to use, and I really recommend you to go and take a look at it when you are developing your application, so you don't, because you might find yourself implementing those plugins without you knowing that there is a plugin that do that code for you. So take a look at this carefully when you are developing. And with that, I have finished my presentation. And I think now for Firas and Hatem, I hope we are ready to get your questions about the program and about the resources available for Xamarin Marathon. So let's start by the first questions. Sure. You can post your questions on the page where you are video right here. So let's see if we do have some questions.
Yes.
Oh, that's a long discussion.
Someone has already posted the question.
Okay.
In the live chat panel. So Tarek started by posting the first question, and he said how to add an image button in the list view items and let the user delete the item when he presses on it.
Sorry, can you repeat this?
How to add an image button in the list view items and let the user delete the item when he presses on it?
Okay. Yeah.
I think you
This thing
already
should
have
be done differently, actually, because you don't want to put a button in every item in your list, and that button will only delete that item. But instead, what I would do is that when the user clicks that item, I would show him a menu item. You can find a video on it inside the Xamarin Marathon videos. I would show him a menu item and ask him if he wants to delete that item or not. So I don't recommend adding a button in each item inside that list, but instead when the user clicks that item, I will show him a menu telling if he wants to delete it or do another action to that item. I hope this answers his question.
Yes, I think it's clear. So let's move to the next question. Asking, I need to make a registration for my app using web client, but it's not working. Help me.
Registration of his app using web client, what that means. Okay, here, if I do really understand the question, but first thing to do, use HTTP client library instead of using web client, because you do have many resources on HTTP client, and that's really the most useful, and everyone is using HTTP client. Don't use the default one provided with Xamarin. So this is the first thing, and then registering your app. I get this is for using services like YouTube API. So in that time, just look for the right tutorial that shows you all the steps for how to get those keys to register your app in order to use YouTube API, for example, or Foursquare API or whatever.
So, sorry, I'll add to it that there's a good guide available on the Xamarin documentation page where you can visit and look for having web services on it. So if you search for consuming REST services with Android on the Xamarin documentation page, you would find that link out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's that's in addition to the videos that shows you how to communicate with your web service.
Yes.
Some other questions?
Yes, Malik is asking, does Xamarin support mobile VR app development?
Does Xamarin support
VR,
VR?
virtual reality. Yes.
I'm not uh, I'm not sure 100% about that, but right now I didn't hear anything about mixing VR with Xamarin.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want to use VR, then maybe you will think about using Unity
Yeah,
or
maybe you
some
can
other
use with
approach.
Unity. Yes.
Any other questions?
Yes, Abdurrahman asks, I've deployed macOS on my VM via VMware. Can I connect my Windows machine with the VM to use iOS simulator on VS for Windows, Visual Studio for Windows? I'm facing issues.
Technically, yes, you can, and you do have some participants who have done that. And here I would recommend, if we have Ghassan, maybe you can talk to Ghassan. What is his last name, Ghassan? Firas, if
His
you.
MSP?
Yes, our MSP. He have done that and he have showed me how to do that. So maybe you can reach out to Vassem. He's an MSP from Tunisia. He might help you. Yeah, so
Great.
it's possible to do that. You can create a Mac as a VM on your Windows machine, and that way you can avoid having a Mac machine in addition to your Windows machine.
Yes.
Great.
Other questions?
So Tanvir is asking, what should I do as I am absolute beginner for the Xamarin platform? Should I go with Marathon?
Yes.
let حاتم answer on this.
Yes, for sure. So Tanvi, what we are covering is we are covering up the modules in such a way that if you don't know anything about Xamarin still, you come here and you jump start with all the videos. So if you are an absolute beginner, this is the right place to go ahead with.
Yeah, I want to add to this that if you are a beginner and you really want to know the Xamarin platform and master the Xamarin platform, then um, engaging into a marathon or into a competition that have a deadline that will forces you to do more and to really try your best to learn the platform because you do have a deadline and you do have also prizes to win if you complete this challenge.
Great. So Peter said, are the questions specific to something or just Xamarin development in general? So the questions are for Xamarin development, but also for the Xamarin Marathon, how to participate and other questions. So Ozil, how can I participate in this marathon?
We do have the link for the marathon. Oops.
Yep.
aka.ms
aka.ms.
Xamarin Marathon.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Maybe we can add it to the chat.
Done.
Yes.
Okay, I'm adding to the chat.
I have a question here. Tarek Alwi is asking what is the difference between shared and PCL libraries. Actually, I do have a videos this explaining what is the difference on YouTube and the difference, but in one word, just use PCL, don't use shared projects.
Okay, so
A question, how to implement data repository for offline and offline sync. Here a question from Peter. So you would implement the repository the same way as you implemented in any other platform, but to use offline and online sync. We do have Azure mobile app that supports this out of the box, so you don't have to write any code. But if you want to implement it yourself, then I believe that there is some guide, some tutorials on the web for showing how to do this. But I really recommend doing this after implementing your main application. Don't start with this, especially if you are a beginner to mobile development, because this will take you lots of time. So I will really let it as the listening to do. Some other questions?
Abdurrahman said, يزيد غسان كحلاوي. No, يزيد غسان بن حاج.
Hassan bin Haj, okay. Yeah.
And Ramsey, can we implement the Google Play speaker in Xamarin Forms?
Google Play speaker?
Google Play.
I have no idea about.
Yes, I think using the API you can do it.
Yeah, I believe all the Google APIs they are implemented in Xamarin also. So each Google API you can use it from Xamarin.
Yes, and there is the Google Play API. Okay, so another question from Peter: will you be making any intermediate advanced tutorials?
So we'll be having this weekly Xamarin Marathon calls, and what we'll be doing is we'll be adding more content to it, like advanced concepts and stuff, which is not included in the marathon. So in the weekly calls, we'll be having more advanced topics once we start with from this week onwards.
Great. Okay. So Hajar is asking, what about the bugs in the website? Sometimes you miss the deadline without clicking on the courses.
Sorry, let me check. What about the bugs in the website? Okay, you can report these bugs to us, and we will take care of this. Like whatever things you're facing, we can help you to solve these issues. And if at all there is anything, we can come back to you on this.
Yes, like we did with the last bug.
Yep.
Okay, Muhammad. Hi. Which online database is better for Xamarin Android? Google Firebase, Azure.
Which database is better for Google Android?
For Xamarin Android, Google
Mhm.
Firebase, Azure.
Google Firebase. Azure. I think in this marathon, you are one of the requirement to get the certificate is to use a backend in Azure.
Yes.
Okay, so this means it's better for you to use ASP.NET backend. Uh, Actually, you can use ASP.NET or PHP or any language for the backup, and you host it on Azure. Here, of course, we will recommend using ASP.NET because it uses the C# language, the same language you use for your mobile application. And also you can use Visual Studio to develop on ASP.NET, and the deployment is really simple and straightforward.
Okay. Another question from Hussein. How can I use relational database in Azure Mobile App Service?
How can we use mobile?
The relational app
Relational.
database, which is the normal SQL Azure.
Yes, SQL.
So what you can do is with your mobile app services, you have an option to actually connect to either your table storage or you can connect to your SQL database. So in that way, you can have a relational database up and ready, and you update the connection string to your mobile app service.
Mhm.
Great. Azure said, how can we contact you, sir? So the link.
Yeah.
So there is a group on Facebook. It's simple, facebook.com/group/Xamarin Marathon.
Can you share
So
the link with us?
okay, just share the link. So it's simple. You can join the
Good.
group and you can post anything. Some developers already posted and told us about the bugs. So another question from Abdul Mutal. Can I go ahead with Xamarin Marathon just having knowledge of C++ and Java?
I would say you can start because if you do know Java, then C# is not so far away from Java. There are really lots of similarities between Java and C#, but you have also to learn about the mobile concepts. So it's a little bit different from creating desktop apps. But of course, you can start, and this is the right opportunity for you to start.
Okay. Tarek said, in my Xamarin Forms app, I have a function in the main project and I want to access it from an activity in the Android project. How can I do so?
A function on
In the main project, and he wants to access it from an activity in the Android project.
I guess Assam, he's asking that he has a forms project and he has included some of the code in the activity file also, like for example the main activity in the Android project, and he wants to access things from the main activity to the forms project.
Okay. Okay. So right here you can access the forms project from your Android project straightforward because in your Xamarin Forms application, you do have a PCL project which you can use from your Android, your iOS, and your Windows projects because those three platforms are consuming the PCL project. So everything you create in your PCL, you can access it from your Android, from your main activity
Yes.
class.
Yes.
Great. And another question, how to do speech to text in Xamarin?
We do have plugin for that. And just one line of code. It's literally
Yes.
one line of code. You just give it your text. I want you to spell this text. Click the button and it will execute that one line of code.
Great, as simple as that.
Yes.
So, Vamsi, what is the best approach to store the data in local? I mean offline.
So
SQLite
here,
is.
mhm.
Yeah, sorry, Assam, you can continue.
Yeah. So you can use SQLite and
Yeah.
also you can use the two options I have presented. If you go back to this video and watch the presentation I have done for using the settings or the file storage. So it depends from your data. If you want to store, for example, a list of products, then this scenario, yes, you can go and use a SQL database. But if you want to store objects that are simple, let's say, for example, you want to store the user ID, you want to store the user password, you want to store the preferred background color chosen by the user, then you, at this scenario, you don't want to use a database, but you use the settings, and you do have plugin and also videos that shows you how to store these simple key values data.
Great. So,
So we have one last question, I guess,
okay.
from Ahmed. So, Ahmed, your question is, if you want to use Google Cloud Messaging instead of Azure Notification Hub, is it possible? So, yeah, it is possible. On the Xamarin.com, again, the developers guides, you have something called as a remote notifications with Google Cloud Messaging. So, if you are not implementing any notification hub, you can follow that article, that resource, and it's very easy to actually implement the Google Cloud Notification services directly. So as Hussam mentioned in the session, you have some NuGet packages which you can take care of, and there's a NuGet package available with Xamarin Google Play services, and then Google Play services will help you to actually connect to your cloud notification services.
Okay, one other question. What about Xamarin Marathon early bird?
So I'm not sure what exactly the question is. Do you understand, Firas?
Yes, I think there's something, the Xamarin Marathon early bird. Some participants got emails from Xamarin Marathon organizers about some prices.
Okay, okay.
I think
So I
this
guess
is,
we can get back on them. Yeah,
yes, I think this
for
is,
the early bird things.
will be have that in the next session
Sure.
uh, on June 8th, so next week. We'll have details about the Xamarin Marathon early bird.
For Tarak, you need to get a free Azure account with when you don't have a payment card. So basically, if you're a student, you get it through Microsoft Imagine, and there you don't have to pay through your credit card, and you'll get the $200 of credit per month, I guess. Yeah, till the Imagine program is going on.
Yes, exactly. Okay, and there for Hossein, the playlist on YouTube you are looking with two steps, which is not professional way. I'm having problems doing it in a single step. Get token and navigate to dashboard page.
For
Yes,
example.
yeah. On that video, I have showed how to use the web view to do login. Okay, here I think you are talking about how to do login to Facebook, Google, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I believe so. So on those videos, I'm using the web view, and through the web view, that's the way to do it. But we do have another option, which is to use the Facebook SDK, the LinkedIn SDK, or the Twitter SDK. And in those steps, when you click login with Facebook, it will show you the Facebook app asking you to give your application access to your YouTube to your Facebook profile, and you just with one click of a button, you don't even enter your Facebook login and password. You just click I allow that application to access my profile, and you get the user's Facebook profile. So again, you can use Facebook SDK in order to do that in just one step, as he described it. I hope this answers your question, Jose.
Great. So, Hatem,
Yeah.
do they need to submit the source code?
No. For now, no.
Okay. So it's just an image screenshot.
With the screenshot, yes.
Okay, I will share the example now.
Yes, and but just one thing to remember is when they use this Azure Cloud Backend, the URL should be very visible in that screenshot. And it should be up and running. So whenever the instructor checks the URL, it should be live.
Okay. So they will find an example of the screenshot in the evidence.
Yeah, in the evidence website.
Okay, in the evidence website. Great. Okay. So any other
So
questions?
there's one more question from Vamsi, I guess. Last question. We can take this up. Is how to log in with Gmail in Xamarin Forms without using Xamarin.auth and web views.
I'm not sure, but I guess there is a Google SDK, or
There's one more thing, I guess, Osam. They can do is they can configure the same mobile app service from Azure, and they can take the authentication services from it. So that authentication services allows you to log in via Google, via Facebook, Outlook, Twitter, or your custom authentication you want. You don't need to
yeah,
have a
yeah.
web view, but you can just call the mobile service, and it will help you to actually authenticate with all the 5 platforms or any custom platform you want.
Cool.
Okay, so great.
So yeah, we are done with all the questions. Right, Firas?
I think so.
Yeah.
So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Hossein. Thank you, Hatem. Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
everyone. Thank you,
Thank you.
developers. So one last thing, I am sharing with you the link to the Facebook group. We will share in that group all the links or all the tutorials that you need for the Xamarin Marathon, and the link to the next call, which will take place next Thursday, June 8th. So at 7:30, that's it, Hata?
Yep.
So at 7:30 p.m. Dubai time.
Yeah, 7:30 p.m. Dubai time.
Okay. Okay. So one last question. I think
Yeah.
is it possible to bind pins in Google Maps using MVVM?
I have created a video on how to use Google Maps in your Xamarin Forms project. And then I showed also how to create the pins, but I didn't show how to do that with MVVM. So to do that with MVVM, you just create your list for those pins in your view model, and each pin you have longitude and latitude. Then when you render your map, your Google map, then you go through this pin and add each pin to that map. Maybe I'm not sure if the big map supports the binding, but otherwise you can write the code on your code behind to go through the list and add each pin to the map. I hope this answers the question.
Okay. So thank you all. I think that's it for this session.
Thank you.
We'll continue questions and tutorials during the next session next week. All the details you can have it in the Xamarin Marathon group on Facebook. So thank you all, and see you next week. Yalla, bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Next week.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.